Okay, if we can get started so we can stay on our schedule.
Very foggy.
This is the second of two joint Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance meetings for the purposes of reviewing capital budgets of the various boards and commissions. And first up tonight is the Country Club of Woodbridge.
Is that clear?
Yep.
Folks, there, I've got, I brought some pictures just so we could show everybody what's going on. So we'll take a look at this and, so we've got a 6-year plan, but we're really just talking about the first year. The first year of our capital plan has a number of about $55,000 for the first hole, and another $8,000 for some tree removal on the 18th hole. So you're probably saying, oh geez, I didn't think we needed capital, and we'll talk about how necessary some of this stuff is, but you know, it's part of the process, so we'll go through it. This is the first hole, green. It's a little tough to see with the light.
Well, if you want, just shut those lights right there off. Little switches.
Down.
They're down.
Push down.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So you're looking at the green side part of the first hole, so the whole place towards us here. There's a small pond you can see to the left or to the right side of the green with this nice rock retaining wall here. When this wall was first put in and the pond kind of was created there, it was a beautiful signature hole for the country club. When it was private, it's great. Now that it's a public facility, what I see is a really small green after a really long hole with trees on both sides, with water on the right, sand traps on the left, and it's a really difficult hole. So right off the bat, it's a tough hole. But what's most important to the plan here is that the wall is starting to cave in. The turf here from the green is starting to push this way, and so we're starting to lose the integrity of the wall. We don't have any way of knowing when that's going to happen, and if and when it goes, you know, how bad is it going to be? Obviously, worst case scenario is you've got an employee riding on a mower as he's going by and that goes in, or you've got a golfer that's, you know, playing the hole as the wall caves in, which obviously is not a good scenario to think about. So we need to address this issue. After speaking with some folks from town and getting some rough estimates, we figured that to replace the wall replace the wall or eliminate the wall, fill in the pond, and just get rid of that going forward, you're going to spend about $25,000 to $30,000. So you'll notice we're asking for $55,000. Where's the difference come into play? The first hole is also notoriously difficult to grow grass, and it's a bad starting point for our golfers. The turf there is always thin, and it always comes up in our customer comments and that sort of thing, that the first hole is tough. The first green has been rebuilt since the club was started, has been rebuilt twice. So they've had 3 goes at this green in this location, and it's failed all 3 times. And technology gets better and better every year. So the second part of our proposal is to actually relocate the green. Relocate the green to a new location. So this is looking at the hole from a different angle. The pond is over here with the wall. We're proposing that we move the green this way here. We eliminate the pond. We eliminate the safety hazard of the wall. We move the green forward. There's better growing conditions forward. This turf in this area is always good. The turf here is always bad. You can see on the back is actually where the green has burned out a little bit. So we've had, you know, difficult issues with this hole. So spending the money would provide that fix. The reason the green is in a tough growing environment is because it sits low. There's a hill on the left, there's a big hill on the right, there's a lot of trees, There's very little airflow to the green. It gets next to no morning sunlight. It gets, you can see we've got all these trees here shading the green for the afternoon sun. So also part of the 55,000 is to do some selective tree removal, both where you see the shade coming across the green now, as well as this area in the back because the prevailing wind kind of comes here. So that's the 55,000. Let's talk worst case scenario, just so you kind of know where we're coming from. If we don't do anything to the green, and I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you, I have no way of knowing if that wall is going to come down tomorrow or if it's going to come down in 10 years. We don't know. You also run the risk, if the wall does go in May, we now have to close that hole down in May, put up a temporary green, and go through the process of getting approval, finding an architect, finding a contractor, and that's going to take time, and you're going to have a very large potential loss in revenue. Not that one hole is that much, you're still going to get people to play, but it is a pretty significant potential problem. So again, I can't stress enough that I don't know. I don't know if the green's going to come down, or if the wall is going to come down or not, but it is starting to lean. We have noticed a shift, and it is something you all need to be very aware of. So that's the first step of the plan. You may say, okay, why don't we have 3 proposals and this sort of thing? All that stuff costs money. We certainly don't want to spend any more money than we have to. Billy Casper Golf has done, obviously, a number of green rebuilds, as has our superintendent, Dennis Petrozelli. The $55,000 number seems very doable, and that seems like an appropriate number for what we're looking to do. If we do get the approval, if we get the approval in principle, then we would certainly go into a lot more detail as it relates to this project.
Okay. Are you aware now that what we're talking about is that this is the 2014-15 year, so
Correct.
this wouldn't be approved until a town meeting in May, and it wouldn't be, so you wouldn't be able to do it until.
Well,
July 1 or
and that's a good point. We wouldn't want to start at this point. We wouldn't start until the fall of 2014 anyway. For again, the same thing we talked about. We don't want to close the green down, in the middle of the playing season to do something like this. So we would get through the year and then try and get a majority of the work done after Labor Day, with an idea of opening up middle to late spring of the following year.
So assuming something were to happen, you would just set up a temporary green in front of that.
Correct.
Where the fairway is now, let's say.
Yeah, correct. We actually have that set up now. We've got the flag for this hole is in the fairway right here. Dennis has done a very heavy top dress, put some seed down, and we're actually looking to get a cover for that green for the winter anyway. So winter golf, people don't care as much. They're paying a lesser rate. They're looking to just be out there. The condition isn't that great anyway because the grass is dormant. So, that's why you do it.
And it is a horrendous hole. It's a horrendous hole.
so
For an average golfer.
Is it very
For an average golfer, it's a nightmare, really.
so that if this does happen before the money's approved, you have some sort of contingency or because you said you're not exactly sure when it's going to,
Right.
it could go tomorrow, it could go,
Right.
but
We really don't.
so we just keep our fingers
We
crossed.
kind of just keep our fingers
Okay.
crossed at this point. Yes.
How much does it cost to take the wall down?
Well, if we were going to remove it, fill in the pond,
No, just take the wall down.
that I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of ponds on golf courses without stone walls, so
Mhm.
it's not necessary to have the stone wall there. So
The height of this wall is about 6 feet
And it's very close to the green.
above the water.
So
Yeah.
the slope
You
would be
couldn't
very
eliminate
difficult to.
the wall.
you can't eliminate.
No,
Okay.
no. Yeah.
How deep is the pond?
It's not very deep. It serves really no purpose other than,
Aggravating golfers.
Correct.
Sure, the purpose.
And so part of the project would be to install some drainage. You would obviously need to bring in some fill there, but you would need to get the water draining out towards the.
And I'm a little confused because $55,000 is the number. I first heard 25 to 30 to take the wall down and fill in the pond. And then talked about some other work along the way, and then move the green forward. Certainly $55,000 doesn't do all of that.
We feel that it would.
Really? You're gonna let the green that's there now just go? Just let it go?
Yes,
Okay.
we would remove the bunkers, we would, we wouldn't just let it go, it would tie into the golf course, to the new hole.
And then you're gonna build a brand new green forward about 30 yards, 25 yards, right?
Correct.
And then put bunkers, new bunkers around it?
We would
or
actually
just fill
probably
it?
not even install bunkers.
So you just
Create a
remove
very
the
nice,
bunkers?
easy first hole.
And, and how would you propose to build that green?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I mean, first of all, the fairway grass is not the same grass as you have on a green, right?
Yeah,
And you don't have the drain, you don't have you have to create a green. Because
Correct,
you have to
yes.
have the subsurface for drainage and everything else.
Correct. We would
My
build
experience in rebuilding and building greens at $55,000 is very light.
We would install all the USGA specs for a green, your sub-layer, your sand
raise it
level,
up.
and it would be raised up a little bit, correct.
All for
Yeah.
55, plus the other work, you still, in the whole, fill in the pond and everything?
Correct.
Okay.
And tree work, right?
Yeah, very minimal tree work, very minimal tree work.
I know you said you didn't know how deep the pond was, but is it like a foot deep or is it 6 feet?
I would say
just-
it's like 6 feet,
6
yeah, 3 to 6 feet. Most of the year it was actually probably closer to 2 or 3 feet just because it was a dry year.
Is there any ecological concerns over filling in the pond and how
There-
it's done?
There certainly is, but the pond really serves no purpose.
Yeah, the pond is basically just a drainage pond.
Correct.
All the water in the fairway drains into this pond, it's collected there, and that's why, this year it was basically almost dry for a good portion of the year, and then it just, goes out, or actually, well, around the back of the property, but it would have to be re-engineered in accordance with inland wetlands requirements.
And again,
Yeah.
why one extra step where if it happens in the middle of the season, that's certainly one extra step that you have to now go through as opposed to doing it ahead of time and going out and seeking what requirements would be.
So that wall is a retaining wall to hold the existing green in
Correct.
place?
Correct.
To stop erosion?
Correct.
Are you using any water from that pond for irrigation?
No.
It's a small pond. Just, those are called balls.
And in fact, it doesn't. Do you want me to go? It's pretty low. Do you want me to go?
I'll play
What
there,
ball do
yeah.
you play? Let's see if I can find it.
Find a few questions.
The
Years
water
ago.
from that side drains off the golf course this way, whereas the pond is this way, so it doesn't, tie into it that way at this point.
Any chance that or someone has spoken to anyone from wetlands to see if they would think there's an issue there of filling in that pond?
Not a-
It may not have a purpose.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that there's not concerns from the
Correct.
wetlands, that they may think there's a purpose that you might have. So it might be a good idea to have somebody go out there and take at least a preliminary look at, is there consequences of filling in that pond?
Certainly, yeah.
Actually, I did have a conversation with Terry Gilbertson, and, just as background is, if we wanted to do this, how would we do this? And, again, because it's not part of a natural water course, he doesn't see any problem, but again, everything has to be engineered, approved, and, things like that.
It's so small, is it possible man-made?
Oh, it is man-made.
Yeah, it's a tiny, it's not right, it's not part of any, I don't think,
It's not part of any.
it's not wetlands, it's a man-made pond on a golf course.
Correct.
Right.
It just
But
collects
that's
water.
But that's probably wetlands.
Yeah,
I mean,
well-
once you create it.
Yeah,
it's-
I know, but it's not
It's not
wetlands in the
natural
truest sense of the
wetlands,
word.
right.
You don't like that pond.
Oh. It's the worst first hole in the country, I think. Except maybe Oakland's is, maybe Oakland's is worse, yeah.
There's no alligators, so don't worry about it.
Okay. Any other questions for that?
The other The other earmark on this is an $8,000 allocation to some tree removal. The trees that we would be specifically talking about fall in between the 18th hole and our putting green. You can see the putting green here in the shady spot where it's a little whiter. That should be green. You can see one of the big reasons why it's not. There's no afternoon sun there. You can see the part that is getting more sun is in much better shape. Looking at it from a different angle, the putting green is off to the left of this picture. The 18th green is what you see right there in front. These trees are blocking all morning sun to the green, creating a very poor growing environment. Looking at a cross section, you'd be looking at the putting green here. These are the trees that we're talking about. You can also see what it's doing to the green. Again, just it gets no morning sun, and that's such a critical piece to growing good grass. Here's one more view from the backside. Continuing forward, this is the 17th hole. There are no trees in the vicinity of the green. It's out in the open. It gets maximum sun. It gets maximum airflow. And when you look at the two greens side by side, you can see 17 on the left. Beautiful grass. You're not going to find a green in the state that's any better quality than that one there. Green on the right, you're looking at some poor turf, turf loss, and those sorts of things. What's important about this project specifically, I've spoken with Carl at DPW, and he has assured me that if the conditions are right and the time is right, they will be able to help with some of this stuff in the winter to maybe eliminate some of these problems, because we'd certainly, again, to your question about the green, we'd really like to get this done this winter so that we don't have to go through another season of issues. So if we can get some of those cut down now, that would certainly help. But there are trees there also that are going to require a bucket truck. So some funds will have to be allocated to those and get taken out when there's time. For conditions like the 18th green, it's not often one thing. It's not like we can cut down the trees and this green's going to be perfect, but it's certainly going to be a lot better. Dennis, our superintendent's also fixed some drainage on this hole already. There's really only one spot where water drains on this green. You should have 4 to 5 on every green. This has 1, so he's fixed that part of that problem. But certainly the tree removal will help. And then farther on down the line, we've got some other capital dollars kind of on our wish list, if you will, that would certainly be nice if we could do to improve the grade further.
Would you plant anything in lieu of the trees that are coming down, or just take them right out?
We would not. We would just take them right out.
And secondly, has anybody done an assessment of the subsoil of those two greens to make sure that we don't have a problem underneath?
Mm-hmm. We do soil samples.
So they're the same?
Yeah. We do soil samples and tests at least twice a year. So we make sure there's no pesticide issues. We run into a lot, as we've talked a tremendous amount about, we run into a lot of ledge. This green is incredibly undulated, likely because there's 2 big rocks under the green. So it would certainly require some more investigating before we, say, rebuilt it or refloated it or any of those sorts of things.
Yeah, because a lot of times you try to create the air, but it just doesn't work because it's a soil.
There's still other issues, correct. Yeah, no, we've, the spot that you see just to the left of the flag on 18, that's the one low spot on that green. And when you have more rain in a single month than you've ever had before, like we had in June, it just beats that up.
Yeah.
So it's the ultimate design of this green is really problematic, but certainly the fact that it doesn't get any morning sun isn't helping.
I'll dry those puddles out quicker too.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Put those lights on.
The other one's on the other side of the session, right?
It's not.
Yes.
Nick says no? Is it? Is it appropriate or allowed for public comment on that presentation before you go on to the next issue?
We don't have public comment on the agenda.
Okay.
Recreation.
You might actually understand it.
No public comment.
That's why we have agendas. Start that, a little bit. Okay, what he has to say, how's that? Okay. Oh, God. Shorts.
That's okay.
Those are your December shorts?
They need to wear them, it's okay.
These are December.
It's amazing. I'm sitting in church Sunday with Dave Ryan, and John walks in. He reaches over and says, "Does he have shorts on?" I said, "I don't know, I can't see. I'll check it out."
That's why a lot of guys checking me out. Older guys.
Okay, John. John and Jim.
Our 6-year capital budget. The first thing on a 6-year capital budget, there's 2 things in the first year for next year. And that would be the online registration. And Jim's going to explain about the online registration.
I mean, we do get calls from people who say, can you register online? I mean, it's becoming more and more popular. Other recreation departments have it. It would make it easier. Parking over at Beecher, our patrons have to park way down at the bottom lot. They have a long way to walk if they're coming to our office. And the doors are locked now, so they have to wait till I get up and let them in. And so just for more convenience for them to register online and to get into a program before it fills up. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I tried to register, but you're full now." And now at least online registration. As soon as registration opens up, they'll be able to register. And WebTrack would be the adapter to the RecTrack, which we currently have.
So this would be for all your programs?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You register everything.
Year
Summer
round.
camp, swim
Year round,
lessons,
summer camp, everything.
All the programs that we have.
What, are they going to accept credit cards?
Yeah. Yes.
So, you have planning and engineering number, and then the equipment purchase, so have
That's
you done
what
some?
coming down. The 900 was their service, for their techs to come down do the work, and the 12688 was the price of the software, the RecTrack, the WebTrack software.
Any questions? Well, we can always come back to this.
Our second one is the ice skating rink. We're currently working with the ice skating rink. It's in the same condition as it was last year. It's got about 1,950 square feet of crack in it, but 2 major big cracks that are in that we're going to try to solve. Adam and I are going to try to solve before we have to freeze it. Did the freeze, but the rest of it's all little cracks like this. So I went out and I got some information. I have some packets here. This is from John L. Simpson and Sons Corporation. This is for sealing what we have there. It was $3,500. I didn't do it because I thought it was too much money right now. If we're going to replace it, I want to see what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. So we held off on it, and what we'll do is we'll use ready-mix cement, make it a soupier mixture, pour it into the cracks. It'll just last 1 year, but that's all we need to do is last through the winter to get us through this winter. That's what we're going to do. But I have a price here for $35,000 for a rink. And it's my mistake that is not a concrete rink. A concrete rink, speaking with an expert, was speaking with an expert, would have to be 5 inches thick. It would have to be 40,000 pounds cured cement so that you could drive on it with payloaders or cars, to plow it and take care of it like that. And the cost of that, we have almost a 10,000 square foot area, and it's $8 a square foot. So you're talking $80,000. But this price right here is for asphalt and done correctly and put in, because what isn't underneath that when we did it is a base. We didn't put in a base. We just came in, we put sand on it, we rolled it, we flattened it, and we put it in. If you notice, it's tilting to one side, and that's why you have water at one side, and the other side doesn't stay up. It's got all into it. We have to keep pouring, trying to pour water in. It's hard when it freezes because then the water comes in at a warm temperature, it breaks the ice, it floats, and ice doesn't freeze level, it makes it's just not safe. So this would be for an asphalt base, taking it out, that would be removal of all the asphalt that's there. That would be a 2-foot deep bedding, rolled and flattened, and then the asphalt put back in all the way around, and then Dawson Company would paint it with a white sealer. It would be painted white, because that's what we need is white. And they could do it with white, and for this price, this is what could be done. Is this the correct price? No, but one of the companies that I'm dealing with, talking with, Salvor Corporation, would come in and do it for the town of Woodbridge, for the kids, for me, for rec, for this price, because it would be about $6 a square foot. And $6 a square foot is like almost $60,000. But he's willing to bid on it. He'll bid what like this, but he would do the job correctly and come in and do it for us, just do it for recreation. He's always helped us out all the time. And this is what we're looking at to put back in next year, a nice level flat, and extend this to the parking lot. We'd only extend it 24 feet. That would bring it would take away no parking. It's just that empty space that sits here that's grass that nobody mows, it just grows. We just come out and give us an extra 20 feet of space so that the kids have a little longer. The width would stay the same, the 75 feet would stay the same, and the length would go from 105 to 130. And that's all we're looking for. And that's basically what this is, to put in and properly seal it and put it and level it. If it stays level, it won't crack. Because it dipped down to one side, that's where the split came in, and that's where our big problem. The little cracks, they'll freeze up. The big crack, it just drains out on us, and we do the best we can.
So the $7,000 equipment purchase, is that for Zamboni? Because I know how much you've always wanted one, John.
It was his birthday. It was his birthday on Saturday. It's on the computer.
So what is the $7,000 equipment purchase?
That would be for the going around. It's not a purchase equipment, but it would be for construction of the 6-inch. I call it equipment. It's the 6-inch rail that goes around the outside. That's what that would be for.
Let me ask you a question. Obviously, you'll never catch me on there because I hate the cold. But how does it? In other words, people show up and they just skate. What happens if some kids come and they're playing hockey on it?
There's no hockey. There's signs on it. We have it signed up. There's no hockey till after 8 o'clock. They come at 8 o'clock. The older kids can come at 8 o'clock up till 8 o'clock every day of the week, Saturday and Sunday. It's open for skating for families
Just
only.
skating.
Just skating.
Okay.
But then after 8 o'clock, we allow the older kids to come because they need a place to go to it. And it was packed every night that we had it open. We opened it up during the vacations for nighttime skating, and it was open, you know. And we have just one lighting tower that faces away from the houses, it faces towards the field, and the lights are set so that there's no offage of lightage. It goes on to the skating rink only. That's what we do, and we have everything. And I check it every day. It's checked every single day, and it's filled by the fire department. You know, they come over and help me. They actually do a lot more for me than that. You know, they help maintain it and everything.
So I noticed that it says here the project will replace the current park with a concrete park, but it should be asphalt.
It should be asphalt.
Okay.
That should be changed to
Okay.
asphalt. The
Yep.
price of this, when I did, and I was explaining and talking to him, he said, "John, you weren't listening. That's for asphalt and not concrete. Concrete's $8 a square foot."
And John, did you just say 75 by 130, not the 100 by 150 that we see above?
Right, that's correct. That has to be changed. It's 75 by 130.
Okay.
I just went out and measured it, put it in. We're not touching any other space than what's right there. The only space to do is coming towards the parking lot with just the grass area it's just grass, 20 feet of grass that's there.
So if I heard you correctly, you would try to patchwork it this year so that you could have the water stay on for ice. And you're hoping that this project would take place next fall?
Yes,
Next
will
winter?
take place this summer, next fall, before the season. Get it in, get it out. This price would be pulling everything out.
What do you do with the old material? Do they take it? or-
They take it. They use it as fill. They grind that stuff up. Like that. And they may even grind it up and put it back in there, because they're gonna go down 2 feet and then put in stone, put in fill, put in this stuff they use for fill, just like they do on the roads. They grind it.
Any other questions on this?
Okay, the next one is the removable skate park. On further discussion, we had a long discussion with the Recreation Commission. We sat down, and in view of the times, a few years ago, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, skate parks were coming in big, they were coming in strong. We started to put something together, we're going to do this. And now skate parks have become a liability. They've become a major liability. And we had a good discussion, a long discussion at the Recreation Commission, and we've decided that we would like to remove this from our project because it's too much liability. And if you notice, there was a discussion in the valley of, I think Seymour had one, and they were having a problem. Derby wanted to put one in, they all got together and they decided that they're not going along with it. So we've decided to remove this from our budget for the liability. It's just too much liability. Who's gone?
No one wants to convince them otherwise. Where would you have located this if it was a?
Well, we were trying to think of something like this. You could find a parking lot. We were thinking about maybe the skating area, but we like to keep the skating area just for what it is, because that you can rollerblade on. That's another thing. We offer rollerblading. You can rollerblade on that. Rollerblading is no problem. It's a flat surface. It doesn't scar the surface. Rollerblades with the wheels that they have, the plastic coated wheels. So we were looking to put it maybe in the parking lot or somewhere and hold it off and then take it down at the end of the season. But that's next. We'll get it coming out.
Good idea.
Our next project is an ongoing project. We've had our gymnastics equipment, and for safety reasons, we've been fixing it. We've been taking care of it. We've been doing it. Rob over the fitness center is fantastic at helping us. He knows how to fit the lid around, how to staple on, and work with it like this. But at a certain level, at a certain time, pieces of equipment become old. They become dangerous, and they become a liability. So we'd like to slowly pull out each piece of equipment, and you see here, the first year would be the parallel bars. We went by the oldest pieces of equipment we had and the condition that they were in. And we felt that the parallel bars would go first, the horse and springboard, which we use for our gymnastics program on Saturday morning, would go next. And then we have low and high balance beams. We have a balance beam that's 3 feet off the ground, and we have a balance beam that's 6 inches off the ground, depending on the level of the children that we use, kindergarten, the first grade, second grade, and then we have the big balance beam for those that are older for the advanced gymnastics. And then that replacing the mats in 2019, that would probably be the life of the mats. But we're keeping them pretty good. The mats we have are in great condition. We have a storage area in Beecher South Gymnasium. We store them in there, we put them away. The other those are the blue mats. The red mats are kept out, and we use them as barriers on the walls because the wall at one end of the court, you need about 12 feet of stoppage space, and we only have about 4. So you have to have a safety thing. So we have the mats up at one end. At the far end, it's the same way. At the Beecher far end, which is towards the back of the school, but that has a climbing wall on it. Okay, with pieces of round cement out so the kids can climb along it. So we just cover that anyways, no matter what. That's always covered whenever we have any programs in there. They're covered. Okay. The next one is the memorial diamond. No, this is the 90-foot diamond. I have it still in here. I have it there. I don't know where we're going with it like that. I've left it in the program. I have it in there. I don't know where we are.
Obviously, you want to privy to this, but Ed in the Board of Selectmen at the time, I don't know what the right word is, granted this group this use, and they were supposedly raising money. Have we ever gotten an update?
No.
Nothing. We should probably touch base with them.
We should.
Because they were talking about raising $500,000, I think.
Right, to do this project.
We should. I don't know who's in charge of that now. Is it still? Oh, Bob's here. He knows.
I think Dwight is planning on making a
Dwight?
presentation.
Okay.
We are fundraising.
Okay.
We are in that process, so.
Okay.
I guess what's in here, I guess John just keeps carrying what was
Yeah.
voted on in 1999, so it's in there and so.
It's in one of the closets somewhere. It's in a bag of 20s or somewhere.
Can I ask you, I believe there was time to report back, but was the original amount 4 years, or what was the amount?
4 years to show, to make progress. You know, that we're making progress, so we may or may not be at that point, but to review where we are, if we have enough or whatever, if there's state grants, and obviously at the time we were approved was at a time, certainly economically, there was no money in the state at all. And so, you know, our hope at that point was that things will loosen up a little bit more from the state and federal government standpoint with grants and that type of thing. And we have actually raised, you know, some money with, but, you know, not nearly to the pace that we need to be at this point, so.
Treadmill, John.
This is just a
That's
standard.
just a standard treadmill.
Standard old treadmill. We just have so many years that a treadmill, a commercial treadmill can be used, and that would be the life cycle of one of the treadmills that's there. The other treadmill was replaced, and then this one, and then 5 years down the road, the next treadmill would be replaced. It's just a cycle of replacement. That's all that is.
And copier replacement's pretty much
Copier replacement should go, but that should go in 2019. It was in the wrong column. It should be for 2019, not 2020.
Okay.
Okay, that's all that is, but that's just the replacement of the copier. That's the life cycle of the copier, because we make so many copies, because we are allowed, the Board of Education, this Board of Education with the superintendent of schools, Dr. Stella is excellent. He allows us to put all our programs into the school bulletin, which we weren't allowed to do before. So everything is in, so but we have to make our own copies. And then Jim delivers them to North School, and they distribute them to the entire school, to the entire population. And then we take them over to Israel Academy or any other programs that are around the area and drop off a pile so that people have them, they know our programs.
Yeah, so once a week we're making the copies and they're going through so that the children have what's coming up.
So why do we buy copiers instead of leasing
We
them?
actually lease them, most of them are leased in town.
Okay,
So
so
we
why
would-
wouldn't this be
At
leased?
the point of this copier, we would evaluate that. Most
Okay.
likely probably lease it. Yeah.
I think that
Bottom line
would
is
make,
you need a
that
copier.
would make
Yeah.
sense. You need a copier, which is fine. I think how we finance that is, up for consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And 2020, all right, this is the repaint and resurface the Beecher North tennis courts and fencing around the area. It's starting to come apart a little bit now, just a tiny bit, but these are minor things. But at a certain point, it has to be resurfaced, the entire court has to be resurfaced, repainted, and then we have to take an evaluation of the fencing that goes around the outside that protects it, from play, from anybody, from woods, from children, from anything like that at play. And those are also basketball courts too. We have basketball courts that go the opposite way, so the school can use it for basketball also at any time. So it's a multi-purpose court. It's very good.
Is that not the only outdoor basketball court we have in town?
Those are the only two outdoor basketball courts that we have. Considering.
Any other questions for John?
I just have one explanation too. I want to go back to the ice skating rink. I explored everything. I explored going into buying the portable units that come in. They're about $7,500, $7,900. They just come in like that. But Orange had theirs, and talking with Jim and talking with the guys from Mars like this, exactly what happened when we first started with ours. We put the plastic down with everything. It's beautiful. It's nice. And then it starts to break up, and the kids put sticks through it. They break it. And then Orange bought the portable one. They paid about $10,000 for the portable one. It lasted 2 seasons. The kids destroyed it like this. So that's why a more permanent basis why we're going to go that way. And if we had to, about $900, you could buy a piece of plastic, lay it down on what we have here, and put it down if we had to. But I think sealing it with the ready-mix cement and making it like a smoother mixture and put it in would carry us through. That's it.
I have one comment, if you don't mind. I'm liaison to the Recreation Commission, and I wanted to say, I don't see anything in here about possible maintenance. However, this week we were given a tour, graciously enough, by Jim and John, and the commission and I came across some safety concerns. There is some disrepair above the pool area and the locker rooms that are a definite safety problem for children. There are some missing caps to electrical. There are some, it's probably not a lot of money. However, we did cite quite a few problems the other night, and they haven't had a chance to address it. I don't know if
We have addressed it. I take that very seriously. And there's kids there all the time like this. And when you see electrical outlet above a sink like this, it's up pretty high, but it's open, and the electrical plugs are just put into caps. All right, we got a hold of Brad. He came right over. He capped it. He capped the one in the hallway. I went downstairs, and there's an electrical, four light bulbs, light fixture going across like this. It was like that, and I said to myself, we gotta get a new one. We gotta do this and that. So I went and got 2 bulbs. I went and put one in. The bulb went on. The other bulb started to flicker. So the last one is off a little bit. And I said to myself, where could I find a 48-inch plastic cover to cover this thing? We got one in the back room, and I found one in the back room in a closet that nobody has key. Only custodians, myself, Jim, have keys to. I took the plastic thing down. I walked. I covered it. It's covered. We have an area in the pool which a lot of the tile is missing up on the wall, and Brad went over and took it all off, and then he went a little bit farther to make sure it's fine. And so we figured, right now, until we can get it fixed, I found a beautiful sign that says woodbridgerecreation.org like this. It's a beautiful plan. And there's hooks up there. We just put it over it. It looks nice, and Brad can get to it. but we addressed, everything that was serious was already taken care of.
And the only reason I brought that up is there may be a few dollars that needs to be spent there that wasn't seen before like this week. So if
Yeah,
that is,
there are other things that we
if there are
can't
other
do.
things,
These are
you
just-
may want to know there was some.
In the pool and gym budget, it has $8,200 for tile repair in the pool.
Yeah, this was not just, that's right above where you walk at the pool, which obviously needs work, and where I'm assuming you put the banner. But this was actually in the hallway and in the locker rooms, to the locker rooms, there was some, and obviously
Yeah,
some of
so
the.
that we get, that Brad and his team of workers have to take care of. We can't do that, but anything electrical, anything that can be taken care of, we take care of it.
And I did put a work order in for that, and Brad did reply saying that that was part of the capital budget.
Great.
I guess part of that tile work, that he stayed there, so. Yeah.
That's stuff you don't want to fool around with.
Thank you.
John, I just want you to know, I was up at the Amity football field a couple of weeks ago. There still is no 55-yard line. It's an inside joke. John was broadcasting the game one night. He got so carried away. He's at the 50, the 55, the 60. I said, John, there was no.
And the guy was down, and everybody just turned and looked at me, and I'm looking at him and going like what? Somebody says, John, the 60-yard line? I thought really quick, I go, well, in Canada, there's a 60-yard line.
Thank you very much.
You're a classic, sir.
Sandy has hands too.
I do
Oh,
have a
question.
question.
Hold on.
Sorry,
Sandy
I
has
do
a
have a
question.
question about the 90-foot diamond.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we did agree in prior years that this
You were on
is
the Board
not-
of Selectmen at the
Yeah,
time.
this is not gonna be
Me too.
funded by the town.
Right.
So, I mean, this gets presented as a 6-year capital budget, and if
Yeah.
it's in there, I feel like people will construe that we've allowed this to go forward. And I don't really feel that's the case.
So you're saying you want to remove?
I want to
discontinue
remove, that's what
it?
I'm suggesting, is that we consider removing that.
And that's fine with me, as long as I get from this board that that's what you want to do, that's the direction you want to go in, because I keep placing it in because no one has given me direction.
Sure, and I
So,
understand that.
I understand.
And so
I'll
I do
go by
think we
what they
need to
say.
make some type of a decision about whether that remains or not. It can come back at any time, but I don't want it to be construed that we're agreeing with this because we put forward a 6-year budget and it's there.
Okay. My grandson plays soccer, so
Okay.
you won't be hearing from me.
Sean, are you ready or waiting for reinforcements?
No, I can.
Yeah, you can get it. We've talked to you already. We know what you're going to hit us with.
I don't know how your budget packet's laid out, so.
Starts with the ladder truck.
Okay. Ladder truck is,
Before you begin, Sean, we should acknowledge that Sean and the fire department was out since about 4 in the
Oh, that
morning
incident?
this morning.
at
Really?
the accident, and we appreciate all your efforts, and very sad
Yeah,
sad
so it was-
occasion.
It was
event.
a long morning.
You had a
long
busy
day.
day too,
Yeah,
didn't you
so
have more
it's been a
calls
long
after
day.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, we had 4 calls that day.
Yeah.
But the one this morning, I think the guys cleared at 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning.
That's
We're
my
back
sister's
up tonight picking up the barricades. So we had to shut down 69, shut down Bond Road at Amity, and 69 at Bradley. No, Woodbridge PD did the investigation.
It's an estate
And then
road,
We had
isn't it?
this, well, we had the state medical examiner come down to take the body up to Farmington. So,
He was dead on the scene, I take it?
yeah. So, it was a long morning this morning.
That's my sister's house, and that tree saved her house. So
She didn't hear it.
It's
And
amazing.
it was amazing she didn't hear it because the calls actually were coming in over by the parkway because the bang was so loud they thought it was a car ran off the parkway. So
There was one tree on the property. It has some concrete brick ground, around it that also may have helped. But he doesn't hit that tree. He either takes out a house, the house next to it. He was.
yeah, we had some damage done to a vehicle that was parked in the driveway, and it was a grim thing to look at this morning. So, but everybody did a good job. PD and fire, everybody worked well together, and the medic.
Thanks.
So it was good. Okay, the ladder truck is the first one. The ladder truck's going to be 38 years old. It's in dire need of replacement. We're going to be looking into this, and we're going to need a separate night to present for the ladder truck. But the ladder truck is 38 years old. We're going to need it for firefighter safety. When the ladder truck was purchased back in 1976, it was adequate for what we had in town. We didn't have the JCC, we didn't have the high school being the size it is today. We didn't have any of the assisted living facilities, the nursing homes, any of the big buildings down in the flats on Lunar Drive, on Research Drive, none of that existed. So for safety, if we have to get somebody out of a building, our ladder right now cannot reach the buildings in town. And remember, we have a 55-foot ladder now. We're looking to go to 100 feet. You got to realize we don't have a building in town that's 100 feet, but when you take the sidewalks where you got to park the truck, and you got to take in consideration the sidewalks and maybe a parked vehicle to get to the building, we're right there where we need to be at 100 feet. So we've done research on it. We've actually demoed a few trucks, and that would be what we would need for the town. So we'll be coming back once we have some more information on it, but we need to start thinking about funding it. Any questions on the ladder truck?
Is that something that gets funded?
I'm just, because I'm just
It's
looking
going
at
on 6
1
years, yeah.
Historically, with fire trucks like this, we would do a lease purchase. I mean, right, typically.
We usually do a lease purchase with all the vehicles.
Yeah.
Because they're usually $500,000 with one.
And if you're bonding at the time, and the rates are good, and you can avoid, we wouldn't pay issuance costs just for a project of this size. But if there's a bond at the time and the rates are favorable, it could make sense to do that. You just add it. It's not a cost to add to an existing project, but to do it as a project in and of itself wouldn't make much sense. We'd probably lease it.
Can you review, this project started once before, or the idea of putting money aside for a ladder truck, but can you review how that was handled? Well, the money that was used for the water tank.
Oh, you mean we had money put aside previously?
We were starting to decide, hoping that maybe it would go towards a ladder truck. I'm just saying, how did that get started?
It was a transfer to fund the tanker truck, I believe, is what we did, right? Because you needed the tanker truck.
Last year we decided we had the 162.8 in the account. We decided to take the money and pay it, so we didn't have to. We could order the tanker and we could do it, and the idea was to put the money back into that account, which.
What I guess I'm asking Tony is, how did you start putting money aside for what was hopefully going to be a ladder truck? It ended up being used for a water tanker. Was
it was during
through this very
appropriations
process?
Correct.
And so you started this once before,
Correct.
and then it ended up going to something different, a different truck.
Right. But
And
it was started once before during this process where money was allocated to the capital budget. For like a 1 year, sort of at the start. There was another need for it, and so it was decided that would be to help acquire a tanker.
My question is, if you did the same thing, not that we're rating that budget, but if you're putting it aside for a ladder truck this time, would we allocate it just for the ladder truck so that we can't, or we would make it more general so that if a different truck or a different need came, it would be moved over? Or would you are we asking that we're putting money aside specifically for a ladder truck?
At this point,
or is it a general?
You can do either, depending on which direction you want to go in. If you did, however, put it in for a ladder truck, that doesn't mean that with a vote by each board, you can change the appropriation for whatever you want, really. I mean, as long as both boards, it fits within the charter and both boards approve it, you could change that allocation for some other need that might arise, fire or not fire.
And I think we had decided in the past, Anthony, that, when we really need to replace this, it'll have to be replaced, and we will figure out a way to finance it. So whether or not we decide to put aside $200,000 until we have the money, or we need to actually buy the truck, if there's a need,
I guess what I'm saying is, if it's a general fund, whether you put it aside or not, if you're using it for the purpose you may need,
Right.
I'm not even sure it's necessary to put it aside.
So we don't generally put something aside that doesn't have a name, a tag, a purpose.
Oh, yeah, usually.
Okay.
And then the next question I have for Sean is, since we have a truck that has a shorter ladder, what is the association we have with the local towns if we need a longer ladder? Or is there an agreement? I don't know who may have it. Maybe it's Orange, Bethany,
we have a mutual aid agreement between between all the surrounding towns. So like we had a fire a couple weeks ago and we called in for tanker trucks. So we actually had Seymour come in with their tanker trucks. We had Bethany bring their 2 tanker trucks. We had Orange come. We had Prospect come. So and then we also, in turn, we also go and help them out. When it comes down to a ladder truck, though, a ladder truck, you got to realize if we have a building, if we have a fire, say at the high school, by the time we get something, and it's vice versa, whether we go somewhere else or somebody else comes to us, it's usually about a good 20 minutes before we see somebody coming from another town, because by the time we get there, establish what we need for help, we call them, they get dispatched, they respond to their firehouse, and then they take whatever equipment is needed, and then they come down to us. And you got travel time and everything else, even lights and sirens. It takes, if we need a ladder truck, saying that we call Orange, it's coming off of the post road. So just drive time alone is a good solid 15 minutes, even going red light and siren.
So in the interim, assuming there's a new ladder truck at some point, whatever year that may be, if you need something that's a little larger, right now you have the association with the other towns, they'll do the best they can to get there.
We could. The problem with that is once we get there and set up, and we have a pretty good sized fire like that, to get a ladder truck in close enough to where you're going to need it's almost impossible, because you're hooking up the hydrants, you're laying 5-inch feeder lines down, and once you drop that, it's like dropping a portable water main on top of the road. Which you can't drive over, because you're going to puncture it and rupture it, and you're going to have other problems. And if you go to a good sized building, you're also going to realize if you go to the high school, you're going to have parents, you're going to have buses, you're going to have other stuff there that's going to clog up the area. So your ideal thing is to get the apparatus in and position where you need it.
Keep in mind,
I'm not saying anything I didn't say to Sean the other day. When you're talking about the high school, when you're talking about assisted living, when you're talking about these buildings, they are all sprinklered, which has an impact on a fire starting. Obviously, when you have sprinklers, the fire doesn't spread as quickly. The fire Sean's referring to was on, I forgot the name. The thing was half the house was in fire by the time he got there. So, but these other big buildings are sprinkled, which is a definite advantage in fighting fire. So, because I think, as we get into this, there's a truck they need, which is really more urgent than this at this point, based on.
They're both urgent.
They're both urgent, but
we use
the other one is.
We don't use the ladder truck. It's a truck that we're not going to use every single day of the week, but we would use it quite a few times. We actually have a lot of chimney fires in town where we're putting the ladder up against the house. Then if there's snow on the roof and whatever, we have to take another ladder and drape it over the house, which we would do at a fire. But then you got to climb up there, and then sometimes we got to put another ladder to get up to, if you have a high chimney. So you could be up there with ice and snow and everything. It'd be nice to have a bucket truck to get up there for firefighter safety, so nobody gets hurt and falls off the roof. And at a fire, it's also nice to work off of a solid surface rather than being actually on the roof, especially nowadays with truss construction, where everything's held together with gusset plates. It's not a lot of the new homes aren't built conventionally anymore, conventional lumber. It's all truss construction and laminated beams and everything else, which fail pretty quickly.
Sean, can you give us an idea of how many times you've used the ladder truck in the last year?
We would use it a lot more. We're on borrowed time, so we're trying to stretch out the life of it. And we just had actually ISO come in to do. ISO came in and had to do the rating for the town, which I believe you got a copy of over in the last week here. Got sent to you.
Sure.
Our ISO rating.
I know you were doing it. You were working on it. I
Yeah,
haven't
no,
actually
it got
seen it.
sent because I got a copy of it this week. Our ISO rating is 5.8, and you get so many points for different things that you have in the town for fire apparatus, and whether it be an engine, a ladder truck, I believe is 4 points or 6 points. Why ISO matters is that's how the insurance companies rate how much you pay for your homeowner's insurance. So if we were to go from a 5, we'll never get to a class 1. A class 1 is, you need a hydrant everywhere, which only 10% of the town has hydrants. There's different criteria we can't hit. So the best we're probably gonna get is probably maybe a low 5. As you go up, the rating gets higher, so that means people pay more for your homeowner's insurance. So if we jump from in the 5 category up to a 6 category, some insurance companies will have your rate will jump on your homeowners. I called a couple of insurance companies. Some of them will jump to an 8. Some of them will jump when you hit a 6. Most of them won't. But when you jump to a 7, a level 7, your insurance rate goes up dramatically, and you'll see everybody will see a big difference. Could be $300-400 more a year. So it is something to consider. But it is for firefighter safety, and it is for safety of everything.
Sean, the higher the rating number,
the higher the
less
rating
protection
number,
there is, so the more insurance
right?
cost of.
Right.
And so this 200,000 for each year, that represents a lease payment?
Probably.
Okay,
Right.
Most likely, yeah.
okay.
Okay, next is assistant chief's vehicle.
Assistant chief's vehicle. It's a 2005 Expedition. It's got some body rot on it. It's got 160,000 miles on it. The car is still running pretty decently, but it does have 160,000 miles on it, and it's a 2005 or 2006 vehicle. So I want to put it in there for replacement, because at 160,000 we could have something major go wrong with it. We get a transmission or something. So, but the car is running fine right now. But if it does break, I want to make sure it's on the radar.
Okay.
And you get another Expedition.
Something similar to it, probably.
And this includes all of the stuff that you need for
Right, light
47,
bar,
is it
the
just
light bar,
vehicle?
radios, everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you move that from?
That would come actually off a state bid.
Do you move that, like the police often have to move from one vehicle to another? Do you have to do that, or you can actually order the truck and you're getting new light bars?
Yeah, usually nowadays you wouldn't hold on to the equipment unless the vehicle was brand new and you had some major malfunction wrong with it, and you take it off. It doesn't pay to start moving light bars, because what happens is you get dry rot in the wires, and you pay to have somebody take the light bar off, put it on the new vehicle, and if it doesn't work, then you're coming back and you're having them take it back off, and then you have to purchase a new bar. So the cost of the bars, and by the time you take it off the vehicle and remount it and get new mounting hardware, and by that time the bar is out of date, it's all technology now. So by the time you do that, it doesn't really pay to.
So just to follow up what Beth was asking, this price includes everything that you need in the vehicle?
Correct.
Or that you want?
Okay, engine 7.
Engine 7 would like to change.
Yeah, this is, you don't want this anymore. You want to move
No,
up.
we'd like to change our capital budget on this truck. Over the last 2 years, we've had structure fires. At the last 2 major structure fires, we had the engine fail on us. It goes out for its annual service every year. It's got preventative maintenance schedule done on the truck. What happens is this truck is one of the vital pieces of a structure fire. What happens is this truck actually drafts water. We drop big portable ponds in the middle of the road, and it sucks the water out of the pond, and then it also pumps it up to the attack engine that's fighting the fire. What's happening is the truck failed at the last 2 fires. We weren't able to pull a draft out of the truck. The truck failed. We lost power at one of the fires, and we weren't able to draft. In this past fire, we weren't able to draft. We were able to get the water that was in the tank up to the driveway, and we lost water for over 12 minutes at this fire. We had to disconnect the truck, move it out of the way, and we had one of Bethany's trucks come in and tie in and start pumping up to our engine to keep fighting the fire. But it is, it's not reliable anymore. It needs to be replaced as soon as possible. And we have a committee together to start researching and designing a new truck, and we're going to be coming back probably before this is even approved or what, ask you for funding before next July. This is something that really needs to be replaced as soon as possible.
Okay,
So you definitely want this moved to fiscal year
Yeah, we
15.
talked about
We definitely have to, we have to move that up to this year, and we have to start paying for it, and we have to,
And repeat what you said to us about, once you decide how long it takes to get this truck?
by the time, once we have plans, we're hoping to have plans sometime in late February, early March. We'll come back, we're gonna go out to bid. We're probably in the area of around $600,000 for a new pumper nowadays, for a truck like that. And once we sign, as long as the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance approve it, and we sign the document, the truck is a year out. So even though we sign a contract now, we won't see it for another year, and depending on how you do the financing, we might not have to pay for it for a year after that.
So how does that work?
So, when you pay it, you can either decide to pay, in arrears or upfront.
I mean, can they go out to bid without a?
They can go out to bid, they just can't
Right.
sign on a
Can't sign.
contract
So
where
assuming
you're
the-
obligating funds.
So assuming this money is available July 1, they can still go out to bid, but obviously we can't pay for it until the following.
You'd have to have it in arrears, the payment,
Okay.
in which case, in every contract that we do for lease, it's called a non-appropriation of funds
We
clause.
did with the country club too.
Right, so that the funds have to be appropriated in order for them to be paid. If for some reason they're not appropriated, we don't pay it, and then they come take the truck back.
So how will we manage?
So it's not a multi-year financial obligation. That's the
How will we
reason.
manage firefighting now if this truck is a problem and we had to use the Bethany truck?
We're gonna start using another truck that we have in the fleet right now,
We have
but
it.
it's not specifically designed to do what we do. I know there's a lot of questions on why do we have big trucks, why do we have this, we may even have smaller, more maneuverable vehicles. You got a fire hydrant at every corner. When you come to rural towns like Woodbridge or Bethany, we're trucking the water in, and we have to carry a lot of water to when we go. Because we blow through 1,000 gallons of water in about a minute when we're putting a fire out.
But we have equipment now that can take the place of the functionality of this truck so that we can.
It's not really designed for it, but we are going to be using it, yes.
Sean, you talked about having the truck designed. Is this custom made then according to your
All
specs?
fire trucks are custom made. It's not like a dump truck where you can go to the dealership and pick one off the lot and do this. It's when it comes down to fire trucks, everything is custom. That's how all the other trucks are that we have.
And who are the manufacturers who do these?
Well, in the past, we've purchased E1. We have 4 E1s. There's Pierce, there's Rosenbauer, there's Merriam. There's quite a few truck manufacturers out there. There's probably 6 or 8 of them. And they're what's nice about them now is before we like to go single source vendor. So if we have an issue with the truck, we send it back to the one company, and they're responsible for everything on that truck. So we don't have to sit and fight with whoever made the tag and then whoever made the pump. The one company does it. What's nice about nowadays is a lot more companies are now single source vending. So what they've learned is they need to stand behind the product they're doing. So, which is nice.
What's the price of this truck? $375 or $600?
No, 600.
So this.
What we did is, right, it showed it in FY 18, 19, and 20. So if we were now 21, 22, so on, we would be at around $600,000.
So that's the appropriation you're gonna be looking for.
Probably, fire trucks are hard to estimate, but we're probably in the area between $550,000 and $600,000.
So you're gonna do it over 6 years, 100,000 each year, or are you gonna do it
No,
over
probably,
5?
that depends on how we wanna
Okay,
do the
okay.
purchase.
Crunch the numbers and see the rates, see how much interest you pay.
Do it the best way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I just clarify the timing? I obviously you're asking to move this up to, let's say, FY 15. Did I hear you say something about before July? You may need.
We're probably gonna come back to you because we gotta start the process rolling. We have to come up with a design, we have to spec it all out, all the way down from the tires, all the way up to the body and the pump discharges. So that takes time to figure out where we need to
So you wanna come back with a plan, but
We're
you
gonna come
don't
back to you,
necessarily
we're
need
gonna wanna
the
go out to bid,
appropriation before.
so we have a price that we're looking at.
Okay.
And then what we'd like to do is, once we have a price, then we're gonna come back to you and look for you to possibly fund this, do what we have to do, so we can order the truck before July, so we're not wasting 3 months. If it's a truck, it takes a solid year to build.
Something we discussed when we met with Sean, it's surprising, but I suggested maybe either he or the fire marshal put something in the paper, is the relatively small number of houses that have alarm systems. And the last fire they fought, there was no alarm system. And how did you find out about it? Some neighbor saw it or something? And
The neighbor looked at the window and saw the flames in the house.
so
You'd be surprised when,
just a public service thing. I mean,
that's a really good
these companies out there, they'll do it for free. Literally, they'll install a system for free. You just got to pay for the monitoring, and it's well worth it. There's a lot of. Would you say like 38%? How many?
there's quite a few, you'd be surprised, that don't have
Yeah.
working fire alarms, or they have battery operated alarms are good if you're home and you
Right.
hear it, and
Nobody's
that
home,
gives you
nobody
the
hears it.
ability to get out, and then you're calling 911,
Yeah.
or a central monitor station calls 911 for you, and it alerts you to get out.
And you save on your insurance.
Right.
They will give you a discount.
Well, a lot of people have home alert systems that aren't tied into, they
Right.
can.
Yeah.
But
Like you
for
said, if you're not
cost,
home,
and they
it's
don't tie it
worthless.
into the fire.
Usually if money's tight, usually the alarm system's usually the first thing to go.
Yeah. And in this town, with lack of fire hydrants
Yeah.
spread out the way it is, I think it would be good, get together with the fire marshal, put on a public service.
Yeah,
We
Joe's
should look into it.
Joe's gonna put something out.
Yeah, these ADT companies, they'll go for free. And
Right.
just, it's a heck of a peace of mind, I'll tell you.
Just so we know, and I want to talk about Engine 7, we had that fire a couple weeks ago, and the way it came in, it was possible children trapped. And the reason why I'm pushing for this truck more than the ladder truck, which we definitely need the ladder, so I don't want to stress that we don't need the ladder, and this is more important, but you gotta look at it from, the truck is 24 years old. It needs to be replaced, because when the call came in for possible children trapped, and we didn't know for over 20 minutes whether there were kids in the house or not, and we were trying to make entry and do a search, and we ran out of water for over 12 minutes. By dealing with that, it's not, I can't sit here and tell you that we should be waiting and pushing this off and waiting until July to order this truck, because we definitely shouldn't be. And this is not the
Cleared
first
that
time
up last week. It's not an issue. I think, I said, when you present it, I don't think anybody's gonna give you a hard time about it. It's a critical piece of equipment, so just do what you have to do and we'll,
What's the next one?
Well, we heard this the other night with the police department. That's to upgrade the simulcast. We've talked about getting Julie in there.
Yep.
And doing a complete study of the whole thing. We told the police department the same thing.
Okay.
And we discussed the what you call it?
Towers?
Console. No, console. And they're telling us that's part of their building project. And I said, well, maybe we can't wait for the building project.
The console's very vital, just so you know. It does the police radio and it does the fire radio. And the console, I mean, we're gonna have Julie come down so they can educate Matt and Ellen on it. But the console is past its life. It's obsolete. It was obsolete years ago. And what happens with radio equipment, they only have parts available for a certain amount of years, and then they dwindle it out, and you have to upgrade to a new system. So we're at that point, we're beyond that point, so the console's on fumes, but if that goes, we're probably in the area of between $500,000 and $600,000. So
hopefully we can, whoever's gonna meet with her. And we're gonna try and get her to speak English that we understand. Even Sean said she's way above all of us technically, so we'll make sure we have an interpreter there.
Bring somebody else down too, so we can speak a little English terms.
Okay, and lastly is the fire hose replacement, and if I remember correctly, you lost some fire hoses.
Fire hose, we lost 4 or 5 lengths at the last fire. It happens. Of course, it's not the hose we just bought. It's some of the older hose, so it doesn't fall under that road hazard warranty. Because if that was the hose, then we'd replace it for free. But this is what we talked about last year when I came back for contingency, or this past year. We need to put this money in so as we lose hose, we can replace it. It's not, we're gonna spend it all in 1 year, but we need to have it in case we have hose that fail or get damaged and we need to replace.
Now, is it a program, where are we staying with the firehouse as far as that floor problem, and are we still working on that, or is that something we should be talking about?
No.
No, it's resolved. It's resolved? Oh, you don't have that stuff on the floor anymore, those grates?
No, they took that off last year, they
Okay.
recoated it. We do have some minor bubbling issues, but
It's resettled. Yeah, we settled with,
It's all set? Oh, okay, okay, very good. Any other questions for Sean? So, again, I think, I don't know, does anybody have any, this, obviously, we're gonna be faced with this new truck, which is urgent. More so, again, I know Sean wants to make clear that the ladder truck is urgent too, but this other truck is obviously really a main, I don't think anybody here is.
Workhorse.
talking about engine set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody here is gonna say, yeah, I think you gotta go ahead and do what you have to do.
Sean says we can't fight for it.
Right, we have to deal with that, we have to do it. So. Just
Yeah.
get- So I would say
Can't
get going
bring
on
flowers
it,
over from the house.
whatever the process is,
Okay.
form a committee and whatever, and keep us posted.
okay, sounds good.
And the other thing, Sean, is you said there are multiple companies that make that type of engine that you could.
Yeah, there are a lot of companies now, we go more towards single source vending, so if there's an issue, we go back to one company rather than everybody pointing the finger. That's one of the big, only key things.
I didn't mean, I guess I would ask one question, and I think I know the answer, but there's no way to repair that engine.
No, it's 24 years old, the lifespan is between 20 and 25 years on an engine. We're right at it.
I didn't know if it was a mechanical issue where you.
Is that
We
the one we
actually,
rebuilt? We
in
rebuilt that.
2008, we put
DeGenero.
a motor on it, and DeGenero put a brand new motor in it, and we've actually been having power problems the last 3 or 4 years now. We're driving down the road and lose power on the engine, and we send it out for repair, so it's not a reliable piece anymore.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Warren, front and center. Glad you came early. You gonna start with Public Works?
Hello, Warren. Greetings to the new members that I haven't seen before.
Why don't you explain, we're talking about specific, we identify a specific vehicle for replacement. In your case, it's more of a truck reserve type thing where it's not. Well, this first page we have is the equipment reserve breakdown, so why don't you go over that?
Okay, well, obviously, my budget is planning for obsolescence and you know, components that we may not have right now. For instance, the air compressor request, the portable air compressor, is something that we have to utilize on an annual basis for irrigation, preparation for winter, sandblasting on equipment, jackhammering on either structures in the road or pavement. And we don't have one, so the idea was, we missed out on one about a year ago where a company was going out of business, but somebody bought it. But so the request is to get one in there so we have it available as one of the resources and tools for the department. The other item that's in this year is something that's been a mandate to upgrade signs in town with the retro reflectivity requirement. It's not all signs, but it's anything that's a warning sign. And there's two components to this, and one is how we manage the signs in town. Retro reflectometer would be the best way to purchase one of those, and we have that. Otherwise, we have to set up kind of a comparison panel somewhere's on site, and that's judgmental whether the sign is degraded enough to actually be replaced or whether we can buy more time on it. So the projection over time is to allocate funds to start addressing the sign replacements. And the rest of the items in there is, and again, our sweeper and our payloader long range. The sweeper is a 1988 sweeper. And one of the goals on the long-range side of that would be to upgrade that to something that's used by the contractors, and then we could eliminate that portion from the operating budget by getting something, you know, more current. And the payloader, it's the long-range plan because of, you know, the degradation on that. And hopefully with that we can replace the one at the transfer station with the one that's currently used here, because it's used minimally up at the transfer station. And then have a new loader for Public Works, which it's used quite frequently on a daily basis at Public Works. Do you have any questions about equipment before we move on from there? Okay. To go into trucks, the schedule of replacement with trucks is to alternate. We have trucks that are aging, and I have a line breakdown for you on my breakdown sheet. But the ideal thing would be to bring us up to the immediate needs because of decay and part unavailability on the trucks. I have one pickup scheduled in there because we have one truck that's literally corroding away. The chassis, the undercarriage of the body, and everything else, so to replace that vehicle down the road. And then there's other types of trucks. The little Mason trucks that we have is another one. But the major focus on the truck replacement is a reserve to replace the bigger trucks in the fleet.
I have one question on that. Is this continuing a practice that we've already had?
It's
Been in there for the past years, it's just going in.
It's been, it was structured based on an every other year scenario. However, need has adjusted that in the past couple of years so that we had consecutive year replacements of trucks that literally I can't put them on the road. They become spares, or the bodies, the truck might run, but there's no bodies, and the cost effectiveness is not worth putting a body onto the chassis and cab because of the age of the vehicle.
Do you see a better lifespan for these now with the heated garages?
There's two sides to that. It's
Okay.
not only with the heated garage, because that will dry out the undercarriage. It's all the elements that are corroding away on the vehicles. It'll dry that out. Washing them down is a practice that we have, but however, you know, drying them will you know, delay that corrosion. Obviously, anything is going to corrode away to some point. The other thing is that the type of vehicle that we most recently purchased has components on it, the stainless steel bodies, the aluminum cabs. There's a lot of things that will be hindrance for our mechanics, that the upgrade in the vehicle class itself, even though it's a single axle, it's something that will defer all that corrosion and extend vehicle life.
So Warren, I see a request for basically a large truck every other year. Can you tell me what is the current fleet? What is the total amount of vehicles we have?
We
that are
have well, there's 9 frontline. I have it here. There's 9 frontline trucks for the major plow routes.
Okay.
I have 2 trucks that are decommissioned right now.
Yeah.
There are backup scenarios if I can't do anything. The best I could do is plow with it, but I can't sand with it. All right. So I have 2 of those as a backup, and then I've got there's let's see here. 1, 2, 3. I've got 4 pickups, and there's 2 dual tired trucks. One of them is a Mason truck. The other one is a little bit bigger than a Mason truck, and we use that for hauling patch material, where you have to have the lighter Mason truck is good for like a trash collection and smaller duties, but it's not good for going out putting hot patch down on the road. It's too much weight to put on the truck.
So these trucks, starting this year, every other year, for I see 3 in this budget. they're not necessarily to replace a truck, but maybe.
Oh, yeah, they are to replace a truck.
Oh, you're not looking to just add to the fleet because you have two
These are-
decommissioned?
nothing is
So
added.
you would stay with, I guess my question
The
is,
size
if we
of
only
the-
have 7 that are basically on the roads, is
No,
7 the appropriate?
there's nine full-size trucks that are running. and
But you
two
told me
spares.
2 were decommissioned, they can only be used for
Correct.
particular uses. So is that combination 7 that are working 100% and 2 that have single use?
No, it's nine full-time trucks
Okay. Is
Covering
that
the
the right
major
amount for?
and 2
what you-
spares, so it's 11 total.
Okay. So is that the right amount for what you currently need based on, let's just say, the last couple of years?
No, that's always been because the way our drivers are set up for assigned routes around town, they have an assigned territory. So I need a truck for every route. It just breaks down that we're getting about, 8.5 to 9 miles per driver. So I need the 9 frontline trucks, and if something breaks down on that truck, we have to put them in a truck to manage their snow route. Obviously, in the summer season, there's less activity with the trucks, but anything that I'm proposing here would be a replacement for those frontline trucks. And
So you don't feel the necessity to add a truck to make a 10th frontline truck?
I wouldn't have staff to put in it.
Okay.
I could pull mechanics out of the garage, but usually they're either doing something with the backhoe or the loaders with snow removal. It's not like I'm adding other personnel to put in a truck and assist to let's say become more efficient. These are only to replace the primary areas of need. So the request is to take a truck that's not gonna give us any more service life, like the 2 that I have decommissioned, and move something else, get rid of those trucks, just auction them off, and then get other trucks in the fleet. And there's 3 large trucks over the 6-year plan, and I have those trucks there based on the condition and age. That's why they're scheduled in the years that they are.
So Warren, I think it would be helpful if you could provide us with a list that shows the trucks and
Sure.
the year they were purchased and your assessment of their condition. Just so that when we make a final decision about what we want to fund, we
Okay.
understand.
Sure, that's
Okay,
easy enough to do.
that would be great.
I have it in a scratch sheet form,
Okay,
but I didn't present it with the
that's
list.
fine. We'll give you time to put it in
Okay.
a chart.
Any more questions about trucks? Moving on from there is the Bridge and Waterways Reserve. This is a reserve allocation to address any smaller bridges, not necessarily bridges, but we have drainage issues, and to have funding available. Let's say pipes collapse under a road, and we have to do something. There are, I wouldn't call them bridges, but we do have structures under the road that could be great. And a good example would be, like a couple years ago, we did Sunbrook Road. We actually put a culvert in there where it was a pipe system. The end walls were failing, and we have a lot of structures around town that wouldn't be defined as a bridge, but they are, a conduit system under the road. So
Yep.
that's why this reserve is in place. Any questions about that? The next thing is the road paving program, and that's pretty much like flatline the request over the 6-year period. It's a dollar amount that we've historically funded, and I think that our road program is working pretty efficiently. Our goal is still, with this coming year, the funding would address the arterial roads to try to get all the arterial roads in town completed. Then I could focus on secondary roads, the local roads, and it's more the neighborhood environment that would be addressed after that. But we're always having roads that are degraded, even roads that are in good condition now. There's always a degradation curve, and that's why the funding request, I believe, should be funded like we've been doing it. And there's a lot of things that influence that, and it's cost of material, The oil prices are the major factor. But I think if we're funding this amount without going to a bonding issue, that this is a good amount to stay with.
Do we have a road construction plan? I mean, an assessment of the roads and a plan
Yes,
in writing
yes.
that we can see? So-
I have a plan prepared. It hasn't been updated from this past year, but there are roads that were proposed to do on a.
What's nice is it's on the web also, so
It's on the
residents
web.
can see.
Yeah.
He puts it up there once it's decided
Right.
on.
Usually every
So-
spring,
right.
the selectmen review the 5-year plan.
So the updated one
And
will be,
that's, yeah, and that's subject to change, because
We
if
get
a
to
road
see it,
suddenly-
and then he
Based
puts
on
it on.
how
we get to
bad the
see it.
winter is this year.
Right.
I mean, to your point, I mean, it would be nice to see why
Yeah.
we're spending $4.3 million.
The long-range plan is defined by what we propose, but something happens, and we've had shifting of those priorities. And to try, it's not like you can take one road and juxtapose it for another road, because the two roads might not be of an equal measurement. So to take them, to try to say, okay, well, next year, I'm not trying to spike the budget request too, I'm trying to keep a plateau with that. Things can be influenced by it, and usually when we find out, we might even do a partial road if we find out that something in any given year, I'm not using the full expenditure, or we roll that over in the reserve so that we can do better in the following year. And every year they're evaluated, what the conditions are and whether we want to stay with what was proposed.
Just out of curiosity, at least in recent years, based on the materials you're using, the type of roads you're putting down, typically what do you expect to get out of a road for you, other than natural catastrophe or something happening? What are you hoping to get out of a road? How long of a period of time are you hoping to?
Well, if you talk to people in the industry, 10 years is what they use as a threshold. We like to see 15 to 20 years out of a newly paved road with maintenance that goes on. But we can see signs of degradation within 3 to 5 years, and that's just the characteristic of the product. It's not anything that's done. Keep in mind that we're not doing road reconstruction in the sense that we're not taking the base of the roads out and replacing the substructure of the road. All we're doing is renovating the pavement surface. And a lot of the roads that we have in town were the older sand-sealed material that has no structural qualities. So gradually, we want to get all of those roads out of the system and get an asphalt-based road on every road. If we did an overlay on a road and didn't do anything to the base, that road is going to have a shorter life than reconstructing and renovating the surface.
You'll see in the plan that the roads are identified based on the amount of reconstruction or crack sealing or whatever is decided.
Yeah, I was just wondering if, based on modern technology, new materials, if we're starting to see a longer lifespan on the roads compared to, it seems like it's forever been that 10-year hope.
Well, there's roads out there that we have with maintenance that they're far exceeding the life expectancy. Roads in town that have been paved, when we come into neighborhoods to try to replace them, people are saying this road is 45 years old. Okay, so there's degradation to the surface because within the first year you could have signs of some kind of structural compromise to the road. Frost, traffic loads, everything influences water under the surface if there's inadequate drainage. All these things, will degrade pavement. The problem that we have is usually you'll get an isolated section of a road, even if it's in good condition. And if water is under that road, you're going to start to develop potholes, frosties, and all of a sudden you've got a segment. You don't want to replace the entire road because you have a segment. So there might be isolated sections, and usually when I run my reports and I give this information back to the town, you'll see it listed as a segment. It's not. Johnson Road was a good example. We didn't have the funding to do all of Johnson Road. It was split over a couple of years in order to receive the end goal of getting that whole road repaved. When I inventory a road, it's not prudent for me or for anybody that lives on the road to have a road that's one kind of condition on one segment and another condition on the other end. So you want to universally replace that road, and then when you make references to when the road was upgraded, you have a reference by year in time that the whole road was addressed. Now, a road that's as long as Peck Hill, that took 3 years to complete. It took longer to do that because of funding that we received, but the goal was to do that road because of its length over a 3-year period. Because I could spend my entire budget just on one road in town, but that doesn't serve the residents of the community.
I think, we've been doing this for a while now. I think the roads in town are fantastic. I think the program has worked. We've improved them vastly. Beecher Road, you did a phenomenal job on Beecher Road.
And one of the things I'd like to point out is I see what other towns do, and they're forced into a bonding issue.
Yes.
And we've evaded that bonding issue.
Yep.
And I think we've maintained a level of service to the community that's without going there. If I look back in retrospect, what was allocated for road maintenance, there's been years where we increased the funding, and then there's years we took it back. And staying, over the last several years, we've been staying consistent with this dollar amount, or relatively close to it. And it seems to be, I don't want to say a magical number, but it works.
I think this is one of the best infrastructure funding decisions we've made.
Yeah.
Because it really has maintained the road conditions, and really is a very fair way of looking at what needs to be repaired. And it's a significant amount of money, but it also prevents us from having to go and
Borrow money and
Yeah.
pay interest and fees.
The infrastructure, as far as pavement management goes, if I took the scenario of a road that was paved before I started working for the town, and I don't know even what year it was paved, that road was on a degradation curve. Those roads might still be in great condition through maintenance efforts. But you're always going to have a road that's going to need work. So you're never going to catch up. This is a constant thing, and I believe it's going to be around for a long time, at least close to this level. You're never going to gain on it because you always have something degrading.
But your department doesn't, I always tell a story. I was driving out to Oxford, and I was passing Peck Hill and Rimmen, and there was a huge pothole. And I saw people, so I called Cindy. And I went to Oxford, I was there for an hour, I came back. By the time I came back, it had already been filled in. So you guys respond to needs, and it's an asset to the town.
My road too.
Give me the number. Yeah, give me the number. They do get out though.
No offense,
Okay, finally you have some pruning work I guess you want to do on some vegetation.
Right. One of the things that we're seeing, more canopy growth, and we have a budget in the operating segment that addresses tree maintenance for like hazardous removals and things of that nature. This request is something that's off the spectrum. We haven't done anything major in town, in 20 years, we haven't addressed anything, but I do see roads that are starting to engulf, the canopy is growing downward towards the road, the sides are, the vegetation is coming in, and we can't do the work because it requires a cherry picker or an aerial truck to go up and do the work. It's above our limitations. So this is a request that, right now, it seems to be a one-time request to address different areas of town. It's not every road. We're going to have to pick and choose what we do, but this is going to be a problem again down the future. I might come back, a few years from now and say, hey, we have other areas that grow. We've addressed this, and you don't want to just lop off a limb. If my guys could even reach it from inside the body of a truck, you just don't want to lop off the limb because you're not addressing the long-term problem. You cut the limb off, and that promotes new growth, and it almost like forces that limb to be there on you again next year. So you're constantly pruning the same vegetation. You want to address it we have a requirement to keep our roads at a certain height clearance for vehicles, to pass by. I've been getting requests from residents to travel certain roads, and you go out and you say, okay, well, it's not a clearance problem now, but certainly under weather conditions where heavy rains, wilting the branches down because of the weight on leaves, or snow loads or ice loads. But it's the visual capabilities of the driver. He has to see down the road to feel safe. And if that road's canopied in, where he can't see what's coming, it compromises his safety when he's driving.
Warren, what exactly are you proposing to purchase? What is
To
it?
have a tree company come in.
Service, actually.
Service
It's
of a tree
service.
company.
Yeah.
Oh, I see,
To
I
come
see.
in, and we'll, the foreman and I will compile a list of problematic areas to address.
So I guess that was my question. How did you come up with the number of 40,000? Do you have a list of priority
Well,
trees that you already have
We have
basically?
certain roads that they're not definitively listed. We know, in the back of our minds, we have to address this area, this area, this area is gonna be next year, we're gonna have to be out there doing something. So we do have areas, both between the foreman and myself that will assign this. This equates to probably, I don't know, maybe 20 days worth of work. It's not all encompassing.
So would this have to go out to bid for an
We would go
arborist?
to bid for the service to have somebody come in and address this specific problem. We'll still be addressing on the operating side the issue of trees that are dying or might become hazardous out of the operating budget. This would be a separate thing aside, and it's kind of a pilot thing just to see if it addresses in all of our situations or how big of a dent we can put into the situation. I may be grossly off allocating, let's say it's $2,000 a day for a crew with a bucket truck and a chipper, to come in and address this. Because you have to set up, address the area of concern, take the thing down and move up the road a little bit. So it's a slower process. So how much gain you're gonna get in a day would depend on how much growth is there, how much setup and mobilization would be involved in order to get, you can't assign a hard number to it.
Okay, so more to come on that then.
Well,
As you
we
get some
know where the
experience
problem
with it.
areas are, and the goal would be to address those immediate needs.
Okay. Waste management. Trash compactors are the first item.
Okay. Compactors, the first one was put in 1994, and we had some issues up there this past year from a maintenance side, and obviously because of the age, there's degradation, but it's the system that operates it, the electronics and the hydraulics on the thing, and we were looking into what it would cost to replace it. So some soft requests were put out to vendors that do the work, because the vendor that put the initial one in is no longer in business. And so the request is based on replacing the first compactor that was installed, and then moving out to just have a reserve to build up to replace the second compactor. Because those are used on a daily basis, and there's a container being removed every day from one of those compactors.
So in fiscal year 17, you'd have enough money to replace the second one, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
How long typically are they warranted for or guaranteed? Is there any type of?
90 days.
So basically, we've gotten 15 years out of one and 20 out of the other.
Yeah.
Something.
Pretty good.
I mean, because they're a combination of electronics and hydraulics, there are certain wear things that we do maintain in-house. We don't go outside for that. But it's all the friction points. When the compactor runs in and out, it's resting on a metal plate. And the pressure that it's under, the hydraulics, everything is strained. The cold weather, whether the compactor gets seized from water, and it freezes up, and you have to work it and warm it up before you can compact trash. But the thing of it is, it's under a lot of pressure. You know, when that ram goes in, it's about 7,000 pounds of pressure that's pushing the garbage into the container. And with wear, what the problem is there isn't an outlet or a resource to obtain a lot of these parts. Sometimes you're I don't want to say jury rigging, but you're patching in order to make it functional. And the biggest thing is when Joe Lizzie and Brad went up to work on the Packer at Bay 7 this year, they didn't have parts that were readily available. There was a wait, and that means your system is shut down. So you're really, anything goes. We might be up there taking the loader and dropping trash into an open container in order to have it because the compactor is out of service.
Okay. Next is concrete slab installation. Is that next on the?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's the only one.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay.
The slab, where the containers that accept the trash are located, the platform that they rest on is made out of concrete. And because they're on rollers, and when the cans are pulled onto the trucks, they're cutting grooves into the concrete. And there's no way to patch that concrete because a thin patch is just going to break away because of the tonnage that's in the container. So what we did to rectify one of the bays was to put a steel plate down, anchored it to the concrete. And it lends itself to, steel is repairable, you can patch it, but it won't wear like concrete wear. When you have the cold temperatures and ice sits in the groove, and you're constantly rutting that out, you know, degrading the concrete, the only way to physically repair it would be either replace it, and I happen to know that those slabs up there are about 2 feet thick with reinforcement rod in them, so they're not going to come out very easy. So to address the problem of having the container sit in proper alignment to the compactor is to put the steel plate down so it rests in its original position and you have proper alignment of the ram on the compactor to the container. And so this request is a proposal to do the second bay.
So you did the first bay last year, and I'm assuming everything has worked fine?
It's
You
worked
had no
fine.
issues?
Worked fine. And we've tried the alternate, you know, they sell what they say is bonding cement, where you can put it down in thin layers, epoxy type mixes and things like that, and nothing was standing up. It was degrading. Within a week or so, you'd have fractures in the material and you're back to the same scenario. So the steel actually worked.
Any other questions for Warren?
Thank you.
Thank you, Warren.
Very much.
Thanks, Warren. And I'll get that list for you for the vehicles.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Anything else we wanted to talk about? I guess that's the final presentation.
That's it, yeah.
So, okay. I guess we can adjourn.
Thank you. Good meeting.